I'm going to pass it along to Robert Gopffarth. He's the team advisor for the Keller Center for Advanced Learning Solar Car team. I first met Robert at one of the workshops like this many years ago, and then throughout development of their car, they were able to put something together and participated with us last year for their first race. And so looking forward to hearing what Robert has to share with us about how to start your solar car team and promoting your project.
My name is Robert Gopffarth, and I've been at this a while, so I was kind of surprised when they asked me to share how to start a team, because I feel like as teams go, we may have had a stumble start. It seemed like we were at it for quite a while before we finally got to get on the track, and COVID had a part to play in that too. But as I mentioned earlier, I've been teaching for a while, and I've got some industry experience. I teach at Keller Center for Advanced Learning, which is our career and technology center, and it's now becoming also our technical center. So we have everything from cosmetology to welding to engineering and all the biosciences and stuff like that. So it's a great place to work, and it has allowed for the first time Keller ISD to host a team. This is a big undertaking, and any one high school probably wasn't going to be up to the task. But by all four of the high schools feed into KCAL, and so very early on, like I said, we knew this was going to be a priority because we're right here in the backyard of the Texas Motor Speedway and the Solar Car Challenge race. My goals to share is just to share some of the highlights of our project and some of the best practices and potential pitfalls, and then to open it up for Q&A. And I know there are some teams on here that have much more experience that might have something to add as we go along. I don't think I'm going to need the whole 45 minutes, so I'm sure y'all will be okay with that too. So. We did start back in 2017, and like I said, we were just a little club of kids. This in the photo on the left is Nathan Good. He was our pretty much our team captain of that first little club. We were just after school. It was me and another teacher here at KCAL, and we didn't know what we didn't know, so we just dove in. And I like what William said earlier is, that's what you got to do. You just got to get started and start finding out what you don't know and find out who does know. There's kind of the progression of how our years went. We became an actual class. So one of the classes I teach is a capstone class for seniors who have gone through the engineering pathway. And so we made the solar car a capstone class. And about the time we were ready to race, COVID canceled that 2020 race, and then we were ready to go for this 2021 race. I do want to point out if you're starting year one, if you're like us, you don't even have the tools you need. We didn't have a welder. We didn't have any sponsors, and I've welded a little bit in high school, which was for me a long time ago. Okay. So our first year was tooling up and going to workshops like this and then talking to other teams. I can't emphasize how much, if you can find an area team or a team that you, as you're looking through the teams on the Solar Car Challenge website, if you find a team that, well, hey, I think I may know that guy or something, and that you can start to connect with, I can't tell you how important that is. And that's why, as I know we all were disappointed that this wasn't an in-person event, because you really do get to do some networking and start making some relationships that then you've got a face and a name and maybe a card. You can start making some phone calls. That, like I said, that first year, we were basically, well, this is actually our second year. We're still getting materials. The gentleman on the left is right next to a welding table that we made. He's got our first rear swing arm. It's not even really been cut off the frame yet. One of the early projects we did was that welding table. We needed to learn to weld, so let's just start welding something. And now I would do that welding table very differently. But hey, we learned to weld on that thing. The picture on the right is just a picture of a very simple materials rack we created. So find some projects like that, that number one will help create your workspace, but number two, give your students opportunities to practice welding and practice working with materials. By that second year, we had a basic frame, and there was a lot of, it took us a long time. I will tell you, if you look closely at our frame, it's a tube frame. We went with tube, and that was a team decision. And I'm not saying that's the best decision, but one of the parents early on in that first year did donate a very nice self-centering tube notcher. So if you're not going to go with the square tube like they recommend for your first car, if you're going to go with a round tube, I definitely recommend a self-centering tube notcher. That has I would say we've worn it out, but it's a very good tool. It's not wearing out. So I highly recommend a good tool like that. And finally, I skipped year 3 because we got stumped on that. But year 4 we got to race, and that was amazing. And I will tell you, one of the things we're going to talk a little bit about promotions is how to bring in your administration. And they really didn't have a vision for this until they sat up there in the stands and watched last year's race. And all of a sudden, they're excited, like really excited and really committed to this program. So whatever you can do to get on the track is huge. And that year 4, we pretty much had a rolling chassis, and we had all our parts. But it was amazing, the stories we can tell you. You do need lots of testing. You're going to break it. We went through 4 renditions or iterations of just our rear swing arm. By the time we were done with that rear swing arm, the rear poles connecting it were more like Play-Doh. They were so soft from all the welding. So you're going to break things, and you should. And the earlier you can break them and learn to fix them and improve your design, the better. Lots of problem solving, lots of breakdowns. Unfortunately, with breakdowns, sometimes that can take you off the track for testing for weeks. So when you're working with fabrication and metal fabrication, things don't happen fast. Okay, it's a much slower process. This is our new concept, and we are in the process of putting this car together, and it's going much faster than our last one. We're going to be smaller, lighter, more aerodynamic. In fact, I'll go back. I call our first car, I call that the Minecraft car. Okay, is very choppy, very angular. But hey, we won 2 of the 4 days with the most laps. That car will run, and it's got some power and lots of room for improvement. But we were very proud of our performance, but really looking forward to our new car this year. I got a great team, and this will be our first cross country year. So this is like our first race again. This is a different game. Just briefly, and I haven't been watching the chat to see if there's any questions. So William, if you get a good question, feel free to interrupt me. But just some of the best practices and tips that I would like to bring out. And I will also swing it by, I've got my team captain sitting next to me, Ben Rotter, and this is his second year. He was in that first year team. And so Ben, if you want to add something, feel free. Okay. But the first thing is that I would recommend you have a faculty partner. In my opinion, this is a lot for just one faculty advisor. So if you can co-teach this or have, especially if it's an after-school club, you need somebody that can back you up. And especially in this day and age, but really in any day and age, with or without COVID, we're not promised that we're not going to get sick. Okay. And this project can really slow down or come to a screech if the advisor's sick and can't be there to monitor and to help. So redundancies, have a co-partner in your faculty. Also, volunteer mentors are essential. I've got right now 3 volunteer mentors. Last year we had 2, and I tell you, I joke that those guys should clock in at school here because they put so much time in. But they're electrical engineers. One's a NASA scientist, an engineer. The other's a software engineer, and so we are very blessed. But those relationships have come slowly. But I depend on those guys tremendously because I'm an old school teacher, and yes, I do have some industry experience, but my first teaching field was PE. Okay, so I'm that guy. I don't have all these skills, and most people don't. But I do have a willingness to figure out what I don't know and to learn. I also have a willingness to listen and bring people in. This is a great collaboration. One of the things I would recommend along with collaboration is administration communication. You need to talk to them early and often. If you're thinking of starting a club, or if you're in the early stages, bring your administration in, because this is going to be a big splash on your campus or in your district. This will be probably one of the biggest, if not the most premier STEM projects in your district. So your administration needs to be brought in early, and they are a huge asset. They will help you. They have connections that you don't. They have broader connections generally. And so I highly recommend developing a strong early relationship with your administration. Then when you do get your team together very early on, I think you need to get your parents together. And this needs to be an in-person, face-to-face parent meeting. Because you know how high schoolers are. You can communicate to them. You don't know what actually gets back to the parents, okay? So you need to get face-to-face with your parents and communicate with them. For one, they're a significant resource of potential sponsors and potential mentors, okay? Nobody is more invested in your program going well or your project going well than the parents of the students who are in it. So they're a great resource. But 2, this is very much like I'm a coach also. I coach swim and dive, and I've been coaching for years and years. This is very much like a sports team. In fact, I would say I put more time and work in on this team than I do my UIL sports team. So some parents may not be familiar with the kind of commitment that's going to be asked of somebody on a sports team or on this solar car team. So it's a really good opportunity for you to set the stage of what the kind of commitment is. Local suppliers and sponsors, you're going to need stuff. I put the little solar car challenge, left-hand side of the screen there. Well, right-hand side for you, but it's the left-hand side of the website for the solar car challenge, because there's a lot of information there. And I think there's it may be called the white pages. I can't remember exactly. That's full of suppliers. So, but you're going to need some local suppliers, and if you've got teams locally that you can talk to, find out where they got stuff. That was one of the main questions I had for as I got together with other teams. And then that's why I put the solarcarchallenge.org website. You need to get very familiar with that. When I put in SO on my address bar, it fills out Solar Car Challenge. I mean, it's because I go there all the time, and I direct my students to go there. So, and then email. I tell you, William and Dr. Marks, I can't ever remember it taking more than 24 hours for them to get back to me on something. I mean, those guys monitor their email. And like I said, for years, I was a little guy over here in Keller just trying to figure it out. We'd never even raced before, and they get back to you. They're great at answering questions. They really, really obviously support this project, and they realize that we're out there trying to make it happen, and we have questions. So they've helped us make some significant decisions where we weren't sure about the rules or we weren't sure about our interpretation. And that when you're out there on your own, you really need to have that kind of backup. And so don't be afraid to email them. William already mentioned team size. You have to decide that. That's a recommendation there, 6 to 12. A couple of faculty and at least one mentor, more if you can get them. So my current team is 17. So it's a pretty good sized team. And it's a lot to try to keep 17 high school students active, and it's not always just that they're trying to slack off, for sure. It's just that I become a bottleneck. They're divided up on multiple teams, and they're getting stuff done, and they're waiting for me to get something ordered or answer just one question, stuff like that. And the last best practice and tip there is really push back on your students and create their ownership. Don't be the answer guy, okay? Don't have all the answers. Even if you think you know the answers, don't offer the answers. Push it back. Always rebound the question back to them and say, what do you think? And why do you think that? And where are you getting that information? And teach these students to own what they're building, and let them make the decisions. Now, obviously, you're there as an advisor. You don't want them to make a decision that's going to cost them a month of time. But if they're making a decision and you would do it some other way, but they're supporting their decision, I'd say let them go for it. Ben, did you have a thing to say about that?
Yeah. So hi, I'm Ben Rotter. I'm the team captain this year. So our team, with it being the size it is, there's pros and cons, like you were saying. And a big thing, I think, for any team is organization. Because if you have a bunch of people that are there and can work, but don't have the right direction, it's hard to get stuff done and get stuff accomplished. And that's something I kind of realized with last year, and we've gotten a lot more structured this year. So there's like a sort of chain of command. Like we have separate groups, like we have our fab guys, we've got an electrical team, we have a team for our array for when we were picking out our panels and PPT, stuff like that. But we also have it like our team members are cross-trained too. So they're not just working on that stuff. Like they understand how the other stuff works too. But if somebody has a specialty or they walk in here, like our electrical team lead came in already knowing a bunch of stuff about electrical, and she's really smart with it. So it made sense for her to spend most of her time and energy on something she already understands and teaching other people about that too. So being able to split tasks up and divide it to the resources you already have with your team, and with your team members being able to figure that stuff out, is the way to go. And just allotting the time, making the decisions. And with the chain of command thing too, like The fab group will come up with a decision. They'll bring it up to their fab team lead. He'll discuss like what his opinions are on it and like, okay, this would work great, but I see this as being a potential stress point. So we should test that in Inventor and see if that's going to work right. And then it'll come up to me and I'll be like, okay, yes. Have y'all checked this? And they're like, yeah, we've checked all our bases on this. And then we go to our administrations and stuff like, or like our administrators and the team faculty and stuff, and make sure everyone's kind of on board before we make a decision, before it's concrete set in stone. But really that brainstorming process and making sure everybody gets involved.
Yeah, the students learn real quick that when you put something to steel, it's hard to change, you know? So they and myself as well learned we got to check things, and we got to think things, and we got to think 10 steps down the road before we actually weld something on. And Ben kind of just jumped right into my next point. The team roles, I think, are, and he named a lot of them. Again, redundancies for everything. You know, fortunately, Ben's been very healthy, but we do have actually kind of two team co-captains, you know, and so we have other students that are brought into all the decision making and are ready to step up if for some reason he wasn't there. The second bullet, I think, is a huge need on a team, is an executive secretary. There is a lot of paperwork involved, especially the closer you get to the race. And I don't know about you guys, but I took a screenshot of that slide that William had up there of all the dates. And I know I have those on my calendar, but if you can get a student that can help you maintain that, we've got an amazing executive secretary right now who this kid just naturally, or it seems natural to me, that he organizes stuff like crazy, and he's got a real talent for it, and that is a huge asset for your team. And I don't know if he actually serves as our historian, or if we have another student, but that is a historian, is somebody that likes to take pictures and keep a scrapbook, because that is going to be part of your project. And you would think in this day and age, with as much as kids use their phones and take pictures of everything and on social media, you would think it wouldn't be very, very hard to teach them to document an engineering project. But it's like once they get into engineering, they put their phones away or something and they don't take pictures. I'm like, so to teach them to take pictures before, after, and during, to take process pictures, and to be able to show what we've been doing is huge. Those are some of the other teams we have: fabrication, electrical, telemetry, and marketing. Those are all our team leads. So we will have meetings, and again, we're trying to teach these students to be leaders and to divide up this task to make it more manageable. I feel like for myself, I've grown as a project manager, and that's really kind of what a team captain has to do as well. So we're kind of learning that as we go. I do want to spend a little time on marketing, because one of the goals of this part of the presentation was about promoting your new team. I'm not a big player on social media, okay? It's tiresome to me, but these kids know how to do this stuff, okay? And I say kids, these are young adults. They're juniors and seniors in high school, but find who's got the most followers and turn them into your social media or marketing team lead. Our team this year has taken our website to a whole nother level, and we were really missing out on that. You're going to need flyers and promotional videos and team pictures. You're going to need to go to events like car shows, the homecoming parades. The picture there is a couple of years ago. We didn't even have a motor at that part. We didn't have our electric engine yet. We pushed we pushed our car around 3 of the 4 high school homecoming parades here at Keller. And we had a banner, and we just wanted people, we're just trying to get the word out that we're doing this, and it's a great way to churn up some community involvement. I would encourage you, and this is where your administrators would need to come into play, if you can get a booster club started for your project. Yes, that's huge, isn't it? The things you're going to need aren't on the school approved vendor list. Okay. And so you're going to need a booster club. And hopefully you can get, this is a great opportunity to get some parents involved in that. And then I gotta move those faces, see what we're, yeah. And again, yeah, start with your parents, enlist your admin. In summary, I just encourage you, there's not many things that I've done that do or have a better opportunity to teach student leadership than this project. And to do that, you've got to take your hands off a little bit and push them out in front and make them take initiative and make them be accountable for the decisions they're making or for the timelines they've set. As Ben mentioned, team decision-making is a process that they learn, and they learn to trust each other, and they learn to ask their advisors and lean on those industry mentors that have the experience and the knowledge that we need. Collaboration and problem solving, that again, like Chris was saying, we have a large internship program here at KCAL, and that kind of collaboration and problem solving skills goes a long ways on the workforce. I told you tips and maybe things to avoid. Free isn't always free. Okay. We've gotten some free parts that we probably end up spending more money trying to get those free parts to work than if we would have just bought something off the shelf. So sometimes you need to and you need to weigh out how much is our time worth, and time is an asset sometimes worth paying for. And if you can get something that's made to order, it could save you some time and get your project further down the road, rather than just fabricating everything or trying to refurbish old donated parts. And then groom your captains and team leads for leadership. That is not, that's something you've got to be encouraging them, pushing them out there. It's really easy for me because you can tell by Ben and my other team captains were here and my team leads, these kids will impress you. And as they impress you, I treat them kind of like an adult, I lean on them. I ask for their advice. And again, we're in this together. The pressure's off a little bit because we do have one car that we can race now. But I tell you, that first year I was really sweating it because I didn't know if we were going to be able to pull this off. So really develop that relationship with your captains and push them out and force them to lead their team. Did you have, yeah.
So like with our first car, like he was saying, like how he calls it the Minecraft car, because it's not the most beautiful thing in the world. It's not a beautifully aerodynamic car or anything crazy like that. But the fact is it worked and it ran, and we participated in all 4 track days, and we were able to compete. We were able to learn. We were able to actually get involved. So for teams first starting out, it's intimidating, and at times it's intimidating and it seems like it's such a big project, but breaking it into bite-sized chunks and doing what you can with what you have and building a baseline for your team is going to help tremendously. Because our car this year, a lot of the stuff we're able to do for it now is because like administration knows and the school district knows and a bunch of other people like that are willing to help us financially and with parts and stuff like that, because they know that we're capable and we've done this stuff as a team and we can improve on what we've already done.
So do you have any questions? And I will try to answer. And do you have any input from the other teams that, or maybe the other panelists that would like to add to something that we've brought up or something that we just missed the boat on?
So if anyone has any questions who are attending, please raise your hand and we'll unmute you. I think while we're waiting on questions, I will ask a few of my own. Robert, how difficult was it to get your administration bought into the project? And what was the key thing that you found that won them over?
I tell you, I'm blessed with an administration here that's already very supportive. So, I mean, we are a career and technology school, so they already saw the benefit of a project like this. I'm trying to think of the one, if there was one thing. Yeah, I can't really think of one thing. I will tell you, success breeds success. And when we got on the track, and I tell you, if you get on the track or on the course, you have succeeded. When that's when they really, and I tell you, when they see the other cars, that's when my administration got excited too. We've been working on our Minecraft car for very long, and then they see one of those spaceships fly by at 50 miles an hour. They're like, oh my goodness, So that I tell you, it was palatable, the increase in excitement by my admin after that race. And so the advice there is, whatever you got to do, get your admin to see the race. Okay, whether it's online, but man, if they can get there in person and see you on pit row and see the other teams and get a sense for this organization, that's going to go a long ways towards them in your future support.
Thanks. And then Ben, with regard to your team organization and captains and team leads, how do you guys interact with one another and I guess play the roles of captain and team leads? How does that work?
You want to take that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So obviously I'm the team captain. We have our electrical team lead is also the co-captain. And then we have basically for like the different aspects of the project, we have different team leads and then like a group of people underneath them, right? So we have an electrical group. We've got our array team. We've got our fabrication team. And then we have design team, which does like the CAD models online and making the car and doing stress tests and stuff like that. And then we've got a guy working on media and PR, and he has some people that help him out occasionally too. But like I said, we have a few people from fabrication that also help on electrical because they have some knowledge over there too, and vice versa with like array and stuff like that. So the main thing is, it's not so much as it's like a strict like hierarchy. It's not like that. It's more of, if someone has questions on a team, they know who to ask first. And then if they still have questions, then they can work their way up, because a lot of the people on our team, it's their first year here. And it's their first time being involved in this. And having a base to ask questions is huge. And I know where I was last year, I felt lost at first because I didn't know how to weld, how to do any of that, like you were saying earlier. But once you learn that and you get more comfortable with it and you understand how the car worked last year, like a bunch of stuff like that, it gets easier. And the reason I'm helping out between teams as much as I am, as opposed to working on strictly fabrication, which is what I enjoy doing, is because I know I'd be more beneficial for the team that way. And my knowledge of, as a general, is going to help out more.
Yeah, let me add to that. So one of the things that we learned from our first year is that sometimes the people that rise to the team captain kind of role or the team lead role are also the number one doers. And so this year, our kind of motto was, we don't want doers as much as leaders. We want people that can go back to their team and delegate projects, and that they've got people that they know that can produce, not be the one to always be doing it. And every once in a while, I'll see Rodder over there, and he's pulled the wheel apart, and he's got and I'll say, can somebody else do that? You know? Yeah. And so that's part of the learning. And then we do have regular team lead meetings where those leads of those different teams come together and they tell us what they're doing, what's next coming up, what their timelines are. And again, our executive secretary will just jump in and kind of take over that meeting at times, because he's keeping our timeline, and he's a great organizer. So
and back on that too, we have a full Gantt chart set up, not just for the overall project, but for the different segments of the project too, like with the array tasks, with the electrical tasks and stuff like that. So whenever one of those teams comes up with a task that they're going to be tackling, and they come up with an estimated deadline for it and stuff like that, they go directly to him for their team and say, hey, for our section, we're going to be looking at mounting the motor and getting it tested and stuff like that. And like he was saying, the big change and the big reason that having that organization helps is making more people actually the doers, and having it to where you can delegate those jobs. Because last year, it was a lot of 4 or 5 people working on the car and a bunch of other people not entirely sure what they were doing. So they were kind of standing around trying to help out, but they hadn't been involved. So getting more of the people on your team involved is really key.
All right, well, thank you very much. It's currently 2:20, and so we'll take a 10-minute break, and then we will return to Joel, and we'll talk about parts. Welcome back to the specialty workshop. As we were going on break, one of the questions came in on the chat, and I'd like to bring Robert back to answer that question, which was how long did it take you to build your first solar car?
I didn't want to answer that question because it took us longer than it probably should. Like I said, we chose to go with round tube steel, which increases the build time and complexity. And then we're a little bit different situation here, where it's just for the longest, it was just seniors. And so every year we had a new team, and we had to start over and bring the old team or the new team up to speed. Now we've got juniors and seniors, but I know many of your clubs especially have a wider range coming up. But bottom line, it took us a full 2 years to build our car, just in time for COVID to cancel the race for us. And then we thought, oh, well, we'll be really good and ready for last year. And man, with all the breakdowns and the testing and we were cutting it close even last year. So that's kind of for sure 2 years. I know this year, this car we're doing now, I think we'll have done in a year, but we're already tooled up, and we know a little bit better about what we're doing. And we're trying not to get ourselves stuck in some of the time traps that can just really eat away at your project timeline.
Thanks, Robert. And I think it does emphasize as you start a team the need to have a diverse team, that you don't have all seniors when you get started, because you may take more than a year to build something, and you want to make sure that you have team members who can be trained up along the way and take the torch from there.